They say that the people closest to you are the ones holding the knife. I never subscribed to that level of cynicism. I was a romantic. A fool, maybe, but a romantic. I'm Elias, 30 years old, an architect by trade, and until a few months ago, I thought I was the architect of a perfect life. I had been with Seraphina for 3 years. She was magnificent. That's the only word for her. She was a PR executive, sharp, beautiful, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and the temperature would change. We met at a gallery opening. She spilled champagne on my shoe, laughed, and offered to buy me a drink. I was sold. Hook, line, and sinker. Fast forward 3 years. We were living in a loft downtown. I paid the mortgage. She handled the aesthetics. It was a partnership, or so I thought. For the last 6 months, the air in our apartment had been thick with the unspoken promise of forever. She would leave bridal magazines open on the coffee table. She'd send me Pinterest boards of venues, vineyards in Napa, castles in Scotland. She'd drag me past jewelry store windows, her finger tapping on the glass, pointing out cushion-cut diamonds that cost more than my first car. I took the hint. I was ready. I loved her. I had emptied my savings account, sold a few investments, and bought the ring, a platinum band, a flawless 2-carat stone. It was hidden in a hollowed-out book on architecture in my study, waiting for the right moment. I was planning to do it in 3 weeks, on our anniversary. But life has a funny way of showing you the blueprints before the building collapses. It was a Tuesday. I remember the weather, unseasonably cold, a gray drizzle coating the city. I had taken the afternoon off to finalize some sketches for a client. I decided to work out of the Atrium, a high-end co-working lounge and cafe that Seraphina and I sometimes frequented. It had these high-back velvet booths that offered total privacy. You could be sitting 3 feet from someone and not know they were there. I set up in the back corner, behind a massive potted fern and a decorative pillar. I had my noise-canceling headphones on, but the battery was dying. I took them off to find my charger in my bag. That's when I heard the laugh. It wasn't the laugh I knew. The laugh I knew was warm, bubbly. The sound was sharp, metallic, cool. Oh, stop it, Chloe. You're gonna make me spill my martini. It was Seraphina. My heart actually jumped. I was about to stand up, to lean around the pillar and surprise her. Hey, honey, what are you doing here? But then I heard the name. So, a voice I recognized as Becca, Seraphina's college roommate, asked, "Is Julian going to be there?" I froze. Julian. The name had popped up casually over the last few months. Julian from finance. Julian who helped with a merger. Julian who bought coffee for team. Of course Julian is going to be there, Seraphina purred. Her voice dropped an octave, sultry and secretive. He's practically financing the after-party. And Elias? Chloe asked, does the poor guy have any clue? I sat back down, my blood turned to ice water. I pressed my back against the velvet, making myself as small as possible. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Elias. Seraphina scoffed. Please. Elias is useful, but he's so bland. He's like oatmeal. Nutritious, reliable, and utterly boring. He's been looking at rings. I checked his browser history. Becca said, though she didn't sound sympathetic. So, what's the plan? Are you going to say yes? Seraphina laughed again, that cold, jagged sound. Here's the roadmap, ladies. Listen closely because it's genius. He's planning something big for our anniversary. I can feel it. He's been acting twitchy. He'll probably take me to Le Jardin or somewhere equally predictable. He'll get down on one knee, tears in his eyes, offering me his little heart. She paused to sip her drink. The clinking of the ice against the glass sounded like gunshots in the quiet cafe. I'm going to let him do it, she continued. I'm going to let him pour his heart out in front of the whole restaurant. And then I'm going to laugh. I'm going to look him in the eye, laugh in his face, and tell him, Elias, you can't afford me. My hand was gripping the phone, so hard my knuckles were white. That is brutal, Chloe giggled. You're a monster. I love it. It's not just about dumping him, Seraphina explained, her voice dripping with venom. It's about the launch. Julian, and I are going public the next day. We're flying to the Maldives. First class. Julian's already booked the suite. Leaving Elias at the altar, metaphorically speaking, is the signal that I'm upgrading. It's a power move. Out with the architect and with the empire builder. What about the apartment? Becca asked. Oh, I'm staying, Seraphina said breezily. It's technically in his name, but possession is 9/10 of the law, right? I'll make his life such a living hell he'll be the one to move out. Plus, Julian has a penthouse, so I'll just use Elias's place as a closet until I'm ready to move everything over. They went on for another 20 minutes. They mocked my car. They mocked my clothes. They mocked the way I cared for my sick mother last year. They dissected my life, consumed it, and spat it out like gristle. I learned that Julian was a VP at her firm. I learned they had been sleeping together for 6 months. I learned that my relationship was nothing more than a placeholder until Seraphina secured a man with a bigger portfolio. Finally, they stood up to leave. I watched through the gap in the fern leaves as Seraphina checked her makeup in a compact mirror. She looked radiant. She looked like the woman I loved. But now, all I could see was a parasite in a designer dress. I waited 10 minutes after they left. I saved the recording. I emailed it to myself. I uploaded it to a cloud drive. I backed it up on an external hard drive when I got to my car. I sat in the driver's seat of my predictable sedan and just breathed. In and out. The rage didn't come immediately. First, it was nausea, then a profound, hollow sadness, and then cold, surgical focus. She wanted a show. She wanted a spectacle. I would give her one. The next 2 weeks were an exercise in psychological torture. I had to go home every night and sleep next to the enemy. I had to kiss the lips that had mocked my existence. I had to listen to her ask about my day, knowing she didn't care if I lived or died. How was work, babe? She asked that first night, curling up on the sofa, scrolling through her phone, probably texting Julian. Productive, I said, keeping my back to her as I chopped vegetables for dinner, laying the foundation for a massive new project. It's going to be a game changer. That's nice, she mumbled, not looking up. I channeled my inner detective. I needed more than just the audio recording. I needed a mountain of evidence. I became a ghost in my own life. I created a burner social media account. It didn't take long to find Julian. He was exactly as I pictured, slick back hair, expensive suits that fit a little too tight. The kind of guy who wears sunglasses indoors. I started tracking their movements. Seraphina was sloppy. She thought I was stupid, so she didn't bother covering her tracks well. When she said she was working late, I'd drive by her office. Her car was never there. I'd drive by the upscale bars downtown. There they were, sitting in the window, holding hands. I took photos. High-resolution, undeniable photos. Them kissing, them arguing, them laughing. But the golden ticket came from an unexpected source. I did some digging on Julian, a VP of finance, very public figure, and, according to his company bio, a family man, married, 2 kids. Seraphina had mentioned Julian was leaving his bored wife, but according to Mrs. Elena Julian's Facebook page, they had just returned from a family trip to Disney World last week. They looked happy. I had a choice to make. Do I warn the wife? I decided not yet. I needed her to be the hammer, not the shield. I reached out to Elena anonymously first, just to gauge the situation. I sent a message saying, check the credit card statements for the jewelry store on 5th. 2 days later, Seraphina came home in a foul mood. Office politics. She snapped when I asked what was wrong. Julian, my boss, is having a hard time with compliance. I smiled internally. Elena had pulled the leash. I continued to play the part of the doting boyfriend. I booked the restaurant, but not Le Jardin. I booked the Obsidian Room. It was darker, more dramatic, and significantly more expensive. It was the kind of place where the waiters wore white gloves and silence as a currency. I told Seraphina, I want this night to be unforgettable. I've invited a few friends to meet us for drinks after, Chloe and Becca included. Her eyes lit up. Oh, Elias, that sounds perfect. She thought I was gathering an audience for her big reveal. She thought I was serving myself up on a silver platter. The day before the anniversary, I finalized my exit strategy. I secretly moved my most valuable possessions, my grandfather's watch, my portfolio, my documents, to a storage unit. I spoke to my landlord, who liked me considerably more than her, and explained the situation. He agreed to break the lease under the domestic distress clause if I paid a penalty, which I happily did. I also printed the photos. I made a nice little booklet, bound it. It looked like a menu. I contacted Elena properly. We met for coffee. She was a poised, elegant woman, far too good for a slimeball like Julian. I showed her everything. The recording, the photos, the plan. She didn't cry. She went very, very still. He told me he was working late on the merger, she whispered. He is, I said gently. He's merging with my girlfriend. Elena looked at me, her eyes steel. What do you need me to do? Just show up, I said. I'll handle the rest. The night arrived. I put on my best suit. I shaved. I looked in the mirror and saw a man I barely recognized. Harder, colder, but stronger. Seraphina looked stunning in a red dress that cost more than my monthly rent. She was practically vibrating with excitement. She was texting furiously in the car. Just telling the girls we're on our way, she said, flashing a fake smile. We arrived at the Obsidian Room. The host led us to the center table. I had requested it specifically. We were on display. We ordered champagne. We ordered the tasting menu. Elias, she said, reaching across the table to take my hand. Her palm was clammy. You've been so distinct lately. Is something on your mind? Just the future, I said, squeezing her hand a little too hard. I've been thinking a lot about value, about what things are truly worth. She smirked. And I think I finally figured out the price of everything. Roughly an hour in, the guests began to arrive. Chloe and Becca showed up first, feigning surprise but eyes darting around, cameras ready in their clutches. They sat at the adjacent table I had reserved. Then Julian walked in. He wasn't supposed to be there officially, but Seraphina had clearly coordinated it. He stood at the bar, swirling a scotch, watching us with a predatory grin. He gave Seraphina a subtle nod. The stage was set. The players were in position. I stood up. The restaurant went quiet. It's that instinctive reaction when someone stands up in a fine dining establishment. Everyone expects a proposal. Seraphina's eyes widened. She shifted in her seat, readying her posture. She put on a mask of breathless anticipation. But I could see the cruelty dancing in her eyes. She was ready to deliver the killing blow. If I could have everyone's attention for a moment, I said, my voice projecting clearly. Diners turned. Waiters paused. I've spent the last 3 years with this woman. I gestured to Seraphina. She beamed, glancing at Chloe, who was recording on her phone. And in those 3 years, I thought I knew her heart. I thought we were building a life together. I reached into my jacket pocket. Seraphina took a sharp intake of breath. This was it. The ring. I pulled out the audio recorder. I pressed play and held it up to the microphone I had prearranged with a maitre d'. A generous tip goes a long way. Seraphina's voice boomed through the high-end sound system of the Obsidian Room. I'm going to laugh in his face. Tell him what a pathetic loser he is. Julian's already got our Cabo trip booked. The color didn't just drain from Seraphina's face. It vanished. She looked like a wax figure melting under heat. The restaurant was dead silent, except for her voice on the recording describing exactly how she planned to humiliate me. He's like oatmeal, utterly boring. I've been stealing money from the joint account. I let it play for a solid 30 seconds. Then I clicked it off. Seraphina, I said, looking down at her, you wanted a spectacle. You wanted an audience to watch you dump the boring architect for the exciting VP. I pointed to the bar. Julian, come on over. Don't be shy. Julian looked like he wanted to phase through the floor. He tried to turn and leave, but the bouncer blocked the exit. You see, I continued, addressing the room. Seraphina thought tonight was about her upgrading, but she forgot to check the fine print. I signaled to the entrance. Elena walked in. She didn't look like a victim. She looked like a queen executioner. She walked straight up to Julian, who was now trembling. "Hello, Julian," she said, her voice carrying beautifully. "I enjoyed the recording, especially the part about the Cabo trip. I assume you paid for that with our children's college fund." Julian stammered. "Elena, wait, I can explain." "Save it for the divorce lawyers," she said, tossing a large manila envelope at his chest. "You're served. And by the way, I called HR on my way here. They're very interested in the company funds you used to book that suite in the Maldives." I turned back to Seraphina. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face. Not fake tears this time. Real, terrified tears. "Elias," she whispered. "Please, stop. Stop." I asked, "But we haven't got to the best part. You mentioned the apartment? The one you were going to kick me out of?" I dropped a set of keys on the table. "It's yours. I moved out this morning. I canceled the internet, the electricity, and the water is being shut off tomorrow." "Oh." "And since the lease is in my name, I terminated it. You have 48 hours to vacate before the landlord changes the locks. Good luck moving your furniture without a truck." I looked at Chloe and Becca, whose phones were still recording, though their mouths were hanging open. "Make sure you tag me in that video," I said. I want to remember the look on her face. I picked up my glass of champagne, downed it in one gulp, and looked at Seraphina one last time. "You were right about one thing, Seraphina. I couldn't afford you. The cost of being with you was my dignity, and that price is just too high." I walked out. As I pushed through the heavy oak doors into the cool night air, I heard the screaming start. Seraphina yelling at Julian. Julian yelling at Elena. The chaos was a symphony, and I didn't look back. The fallout was, in a word, nuclear, because Chloe and Becca are idiots who live for drama. They had live-streamed the first half of the encounter, before realizing it made their friend look like a sociopath. By the time they deleted it, screen recordings were already circulating on local groups. The video titled "Gold Digger Gets Owned at the Obsidian Room" went viral locally. Julian was fired the next morning. Apparently, using a corporate car for a mistress while embezzling funds doesn't sit well with the board of directors. His industry is small. Word travels fast. He's currently unhireable in the city. Seraphina didn't fare much better. PR firms rely on reputation. When you become the face of deceit and manipulation, clients don't want you representing them. She was let go due to misalignment with company values. Our friend group, the one she claimed to rule, fractured immediately. Once the full recording came out, I may have emailed it to a few key people. Everyone realized she had been lying about me for years. She had painted me as controlling and cheap to cover her own infidelity. The truth shattered her social capital. Chloe and Becca tried to backpedal, claiming they were manipulated too, but nobody bought it. They were complicit. They were ostracized right along with her. Seraphina tried to contact me. Oh, did she try? First came the rage texts. "You ruined my life. How could you be so cruel? I'm going to sue you." Then came the bargaining. "Elias, I'm sorry. I was confused. Julia manipulated me. Can we just talk? I have nowhere to go." Then the begging. "Please, Elias. I love you. It was a mistake. I'm sleeping in my car." I never replied. Not once. I blocked every number, every profile. Silence is the loudest answer you can give. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a new apartment. It's smaller, but it has a balcony with a view of the river. It's mine. I didn't date for a while. I focused on work. I took that trip to Cabo myself. Well, not the one Julian booked, but a better one. I sat on the beach, drank mezcal, and realized that I liked my own company. But life moves on. I met someone recently. Her name is Mara. She's a landscape architect. We met on a job site. She was wearing steel-toed boots and yelling at a contractor about drainage issues. I think I fell in love right there. We were having coffee yesterday, and she noticed I was wearing an old watch. "Is that a vintage Timex?" she asked. I tensed up, waiting for mockery. "Yeah," I said. "It was my grandfather's." She smiled, a genuine, warm smile that reached her eyes. That's beautiful. I love things with history. It suits you. I smile back. Yeah, it keeps perfect time. As for Seraphina, I heard from a mutual friend that she had to move back to her hometown 3 states away. She's working as a receptionist at her uncle's car dealership. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment in the cafe. The pain of hearing the person you love plot your destruction is something I wouldn't wish on anyone, but in a way, I'm grateful for it. That moment of cruelty broke the illusion. It forced me to stop building a life on a cracked foundation. I tore it all down, cleared the rubble, and now I'm building something real. And this time, I'm checking the blueprints very, very carefully.